Okay. The meeting will please come to order. This is a meeting of the Sesquicentennial Planning Committee. The date is May 19th. The first thing we'll do is, Lisa, would you call the roll?
Ms. Chow.
I'm here.
Ms. Drucker.
Here.
Ms. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Hussey Arnson.
Here.
Ms. McDonald.
Here.
Mr. Pierce.
Here.
Mr. Swanson.
Here.
Ms. Thomas. No, she's here.
Here.
Ms. Newsom.
Here.
Ms. Canifeck.
Here.
Mr. Canning was dialing in, but I think we don't have him. Mr. Squires is trying to come in, I believe. And Mr. Jacoby.
Here. The first thing I'll do is read the remote meeting script that's required whenever remote meetings are held by governmental bodies in the state of Illinois. So here it is. This meeting is being conducted remotely via Microsoft Teams. For those watching this video in the future, the state of Illinois is currently under a stay-at-home order issued by Governor J.B. Pritzker due to the coronavirus global pandemic. As a result, all in-person governmental meetings have been canceled. However, the Open Meetings Act now permits electronic meetings of governmental bodies like the Sesquicentennial Planning Committee. And today, we are conducting our business in compliance with the state law. This meeting is being broadcast live on our local cable access channel 6. It is also being broadcast on the internet, on YouTube Live, and the URL for that is www.youtube.com/user/village-of-Wilmette/live. To participate in the meeting, you can join through Microsoft Teams. Visit the village's website at www.wilmette.com and find the calendar event for the Sesquicentennial meeting. There is a link for you to join the meeting. You will also find the meeting agenda and any agenda materials under the calendar. Alternatively, you can view the meeting on channel 6 or on YouTube and call in to the meeting, allowing you to listen and speak using your telephone. The phone number is 872-239-8225. Today's meeting code is 918-612-947, number sign. You may also submit your comments through YouTube Live and emails to comdev, C-O-M-D-E-V, @wilmette.com. A member of the village staff will read your comments to the committee. All comments to the committee will be recorded in the meeting minutes as well. For our meeting guests joining by Teams, when you're joining by Teams, when you are not speaking, please keep your device muted to minimize disruption of the proceedings and your video turned off so that the board members can be seen. So there we are. First, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 28. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Somebody?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Okay. Who was that?
Lindsay.
Okay, Lindsay, thank you.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any additions or corrections that somebody would like to suggest before we take our roll call vote? Hearing none. Lisa, would you call the roll again?
Ms. Chow.
Aye.
Ms. Drucker.
Aye.
Ms. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Hussey Arnson.
Aye.
Ms. McDonald.
You're muted, Lisa. Okay. She said
Thumbs
aye.
up.
I thought.
Aye.
Mr. Pierce.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Newsom.
Yes.
Ms. Canifex,
Aye.
Mr. Squires,
Here.
Mr. Jacoby.
Yes. We were voting on the minutes, Vern, so maybe you want a yes or a no.
Yes. Aye.
With that, the minutes of the April 28th meeting are adopted. Just by way of a little background, we've been doing stuff over the last 3 weeks. It hasn't been a period of idle time. We've obtained 2 new logo designs from our consultant. There have been multiple discussions between members of the committee and village staff dealing with possible public projects like the Alley Plaza and tree planting. The Historical Museum working group, which consists of 3 members of our committee, Kathy, Vern, and Nancy, has sent us a report about what the museum might be doing to participate in the Sesquicentennial. We have received an email from Lisa McDonald about the libraries and its the work that it's doing, and it's going to be submitting its contribution by our target date for all of the working groups, August 30th. And we were happy to get that, Lisa, and the expression of enthusiasm that it contained. We've been in contact with District 39 and the 3 members of their staff who have been designated to make suggestions for how the district will participate in the Sesquicentennial. And they are at work, and they are targeting August 30 to make their submission. We haven't heard back yet from District 37. We've attempted to contact them, but we have also given them the names of the District 39 representatives so that perhaps they could even work together on something. The Wilmette Park District has indicated through its new president that they will enthusiastically participate. Looks like maybe an enhanced fireworks display is in the works. So that's all good news. We've contacted the Historic Preservation Board and the Community Relations Commission and asked them, you know, if they would like to suggest a project and get involved actively as a commission of the village. The community, the business community of the village, Julie Usom's going to head up that working group, and we're looking for members of that business community to participate with her. We talked to the Wilmette Theater about the possibility of a Wilmette Film Festival, and they're going to talk about that idea. And the community band has volunteered to perform whenever and wherever we want, almost. And Kathy, we thank you for putting us in contact with them, and they've responded enthusiastically. And finally, we've contacted all of the churches and synagogues of the community. We have heard back from 4 of them who are interested in doing an interfaith service and perhaps a service project like a food drive in connection with that. Now, one thing that they want to know is, are you talking about Thanksgiving this year or Thanksgiving next year? And that's a very good question that I think we ought to provide some guidance to them on. I don't mean to be hitting you cold with this, but does anybody have an opinion that they'd like to express as to whether we want them to focus on this year or next year?
It seems like we already said the celebration is, beginning January of 2022. So it'd be logical that it would be Thanksgiving of 2022.
Okay.
But
Anyone else?
John, I don't see why we don't do both. as sort of an introductory this year, and then the big one next year.
Money, yeah. True, yeah.
I mean, we used to do this. It has
Yeah.
been done in the past, so it's not the first time.
Okay. Anyone else?
I kind of like that idea of doing both years, or if we're going to start in January, we could think about having a kickoff or a opening event in November or something like that too. I only say that because January is a tough time to do a kickoff of the celebration.
And anyone else? Well, I'll communicate your comments back and we'll let them take it from there. So next item on the agenda is the discussion of the logos. Alex, can you put those up so everybody can see them?
Yep, will do. So they were included in the meeting packet, but we did receive 2 new logo concepts from Basecamp. So here they are. This was the first logo. And then I just want to note that these are not, these wouldn't be final. We are still able to give them guidance on like fonts and colors and whatnot. But these were just the concepts provided to us. But anyway, this was the first option that was sent over to us. And the second option is here. So I'll go back to the first. And the second. And I did just kind of take the suggestions and discussion that we had at our last meeting and summarized it for Diane over at Basecamp. And then in addition to that, I also put together some emails that were sent from Anne and from Lindsay, and just kind of just forwarding any comments we had regarding it. So I do think they had a little bit more information to work off this time than they did the first.
All right, so what do you all think?
I like
Sure.
the second.
Lisa, go ahead.
I like the second one with the silhouette of the tree because I think it ties to what's currently in Wilmette. And I think the way that they did the colorful one is festive in terms of it almost looks like balloons floating up in the air. So I think it brings continuity with the current logo, but also is festive.
Just so you know, Lisa, those are balloons that they incorporated. So yeah, the celebratory feel, I think they did a good job of capturing that.
I would really love to hear what Ann Kelly has to say because this is sort of her area of expertise.
Sure.
Okay.
I definitely think they're closer to the mark than the first batch that we saw. I don't know if they had made up any others because this is kind of the first time we're all kind of either seeing them. But I do think I like the idea in the balloon one that they captured the tree and there's a little celebratory thing with the balloon, so it makes it a little lighter and more fun. I think one of the issues I have with it is it's very long and horizontal. And I know we gave them feedback that we wanted it to be a little more compact, like some of the round logos that we had sent to them as examples, just because I think that translates better to promotional items that we might want to, put out there, like t-shirts and hats and things like that. And both of these logos are very kind of long and horizontal. So that is, a little bit of feedback on that. They're simpler than the last one. And they're a little bit more sophisticated. But I think some of the feedback we gave them last time, we're not seeing yet. Like we talked about it, incorporating some other things that Wilmette is, like the lakefront and things like that. That some of the things I feel like we gave them feedback up are not showing up in these two examples, but I don't know if they had more in their back pocket, but that's kind of my initial feel about that.
Okay, Vern, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, as between the two of them, I much preferred the second one. I thought the tree sort of got lost in the first one, whereas the second is very clean, emphasizes the tree, and that would be my choice as between the two of them.
Anyone else?
Sorry, when we're saying first and second, is there one's like a tree and one's the balloon tree? Is the second?
Yeah, the second one, that was the balloon tree,
Got it. Okay.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
Right.
let's make sure we have our terminology straight.
Yeah.
Let's call them the balloon tree logo and what do you
And the,
wanna
and the
call other one?
traditional tree, right?
Yeah. Okay, so Vern, are you saying you like which one?
The balloon tree.
Okay. Yeah, Ellen?
Yeah, I thought they're both pretty good. I think they're a lot closer to what we were after, but I do prefer the one where the tree is incorporated within the name, the balloon tree one.
Nancy?
Same here, ditto.
John, I think that I like the second one better. I'm not real fond of the font they use, but I like the second one better. I showed this to a couple of people here at the museum, and they thought the balloons were the colors were look more like a nursery school, and the colors. So you might think about what colors the balloons are, just to not be signaling this is a kids event or something like that.
Okay, anybody else? So the question is, where do we go from here to there to try to get a logo approved? What I'm hearing is that the balloon tree logo is the preferred one of the committee. Somebody's got their hand up. Who is that?
Yeah, that was me, Alice.
Okay, Alice?
Yeah, I actually between the two of them, I like the simpler one. I like the festive one with the balloons. However, depending on how the logo is going to appear on the items that we're going to present, I think the simpler, the better. I not necessarily like just something a little more compact, a smaller. Because depending on where we're going to put the logo, it may be overwhelming to put that the whole thing, the width and the height. I don't know where it's going to go to, but I think more simpler the better.
Is the colors too circusy?
No, it's just it's too, to me the design is very busy. I think the logo, if it's more simplified, it will be clear and stands out more.
This is Julie. I prefer the one without the balloon tree, the one that has the tree inside of the 150. Although I wouldn't say I'm in love with either of them, but of the two, that's my preference.
Anyone else?
So,
Well, neither
yes,
of them much for the history of Wilmette.
Can you hear me?
Who's
I think
speaking?
the font of, it's
Beth,
Beth
go
Drucker
ahead.
speaking. I prefer the font of logo number 1. That's not the balloon tree font. So font number 1. I prefer this font. I think the font in number 2 is hard to read and kind of weird. However, I do much prefer the tree as part of the Wilmette. But as you might expect, I'd like to see it just the Wilmette logo without the cartoonish balloons. I know it seems celebratory, but I kind of like the tree with the leaves just the way our logo is. So those that may not be helpful, but was my first reaction. Simpler font with the tree in the word Wilmette, but not with the balloons.
So all of these only take Wilmette back to its 150th anniversary, not back to the very beginning then.
Right.
Okay.
I
I'm
have
not sure I
one other
quite
thing.
understand that comment. The history does start 150 years ago. Of course, there was always something here before that, but
Well, the Wilmette Reserve was there before that. That went back to 1829.
Okay, well, you know something, we could debate the logo for every meeting that we have until the Sesquicentennial is over, and not have a logo. So we're going to have to all come together somehow on this. I think there has been some support expressed for the plane tree and some for the balloon tree. Why don't we start there and just get the concept of whether people like the simpler plane tree or the balloon tree? And Lisa, why don't you call the names and just say balloon or plane, and we'll count them up and see where we're going.
Okay, voting on your preference, starting alphabetical order, Ms. Chow,
Plain.
Ms. Drucker,
Oops, plain.
Ms. Kelly,
Balloon. Revised balloon, maybe.
Ms. Hussey Arnson,
Plain.
Ms. McDonald,
Balloon.
Mr. Pierce,
Plain.
Mr. Swanson,
Balloon.
Ms. Thomas,
Balloon.
Ms. Newsome,
Plain.
Ms. Canifax,
Balloon with the plainer font.
Mr. Squires,
Plain.
and Mr. Jacoby.
Balloon. How does
Aye.
it come out?
And I guess I'm just a guest, McCullough, plain.
Mr. Canning is tuned in. I'm not sure if he's actively with us.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh,
You may have the
McCullough, plain.
deciding vote here.
This is an
That's why I'm waiting to find out, John.
Which one do you prefer?
Well, I want to know what the votes are.
No, you don't get that.
I think we can probably debate this until the actual bicentennial, John, if we keep this up.
Yeah, that's the point. We got to move forward. So what's your vote?
I follow Nancy in the balloon tree with a simpler font.
Okay, Lisa, how many votes does each get?
so the balloon tree wins 7-6.
All right.
Okay, I think there has been expression by several people that even with the balloon tree, the font is not what you would like. So can we just lay this responsibility on staff to finalize this thing? Or does the committee want to be back voting? Ann, go ahead.
I think our subcommittee could make the tweaks on it, and then just present a final to the group next meeting. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
I think that sounds good. I'll summarize the comments that were just discussed, talking about making the font more plain, and that we can finalize the colors and whatnot. But yeah, Lisa and Heather, I'll make sure that I communicate with you guys about it.
And one comment just to make the plain people feel better is, we did talk about the village logo actually adopting some sort of variation during the celebration period. And that could be simply, I know Julie Newsome sent a really great example in an email of just taking the regular village logo and putting like a ribbon with, 150 years in it. So I think that there's, that could be the village logo for the year, and that's more plain and traditional. And then this logo with the balloons is more of, representing the celebration that's going to happen and the events and things like that. So I think we kind of have a happy medium, on both those camps.
Your idea, Ann, of the ribbon in the tree, that perhaps could be used on the village sticker, because I think the tree appears on the village sticker every year. So.
Yep, that's perfect. Yep. And the website and, anything else when we send out, when they send out the e-blast and things like that, it could include that logo.
Okay, so work that one out too, will you please?
Sure.
Ann, and your
Yes.
group? Okay.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. George, you want to talk a little bit about the tree planting project and where we stand on that?
Yeah, so the concept of doing a tree planting project has come up a couple of times. I am meeting with the village forester, the assistant director of public works, Skylam, and also the forester from the park district, Christie, whose last name I forget, next Monday at 10 o'clock. We've received a lot of input from the village regarding the number of trees they've planted over the past few years, what they budget for 2021. What's a little unclear to me is, at least on village property, what is the need for 150 trees? And if the need isn't there, this concept somehow has to be modified. My sense is there may be a greater need on park district property as opposed to village property. We do know the cost is approximately $275, and I bet by 2022 it's going to be a little bit higher than that. So budget for 150 trees is about $45,000. It may be that if this proceeds, an aspect of this may actually be where we provide a program where people actually buy a tree for their private property as opposed to public property, because we just aren't in a position to accommodate 150 new trees, which seems somewhat surprising, but the village has a pretty robust program of replacing trees, although they backed off on it last year. So after my meeting Monday, I'll provide an update as to where do we think we could go with a 150 tree program.
All right, thank you, George. And let me ask the committee, is everybody on board with the idea that maybe a tree program would be desirable? Details to be worked out, because if the committee doesn't want to have a tree program after what you've heard so far, let's don't waste any more time on it. But
can you hear me? I'm not sure if my name is Dick McCullough. I can't, my video's not working, so.
Who is speaking?
Dick McCullough. Richard.
Okay, Dick, go ahead.
A tree program just sort of struck me for an idea that if you wanted to have one, would it be possible that you could offer a sesquicentennial tree or whatever, where you would, the private individual homeowner would buy it and would get, in addition to the tree itself, which would be large enough to sustain itself, a plaque that they could put on the trunk or attached to it that would remind it as to what it is, which is a Wilmette sesquicentennial tree planted in honor of, as of whatever the date is. It would be some way to have the private citizen at least have available that kind of a program without paying for it.
Okay, well, that's an idea, George, that you can include in your discussions.
Yeah, I have, I'll get further details on that Monday. I do sense it would be difficult if we were able to have 150 trees purchased by people throughout the village. It would be difficult for them to individually have plaques. And it may be that we figure out another way for people to get recognized for their tree.
I thought it'd be a generic plaque, not a specific to the name.
Yeah, I know, for example, there's trees down at Gilson that our Rotary Club has bought over the years. And after 25 years, the plaques fade and it becomes a maintenance issue. So I will find out what we can do on that.
I think the only question before us today is there enough support for this to move forward with the planning rather than, if there isn't support for it, wasting George's time? I think that's
Yep.
the question. If you don't want to do this, speak up.
I'm not that hot for it myself, so.
What was that?
I,
I would certainly be in favor of a continuing for George to continue investigating.
Okay, and Lisa?
I'm in support of it because I know the library tried to get 3 and pay for them from the village and couldn't. So I know that they're looking in the market for some trees. Plus, I think you've got a lot of private people that might want it. And one of the ways that you could recognize it is since you're going to tie a bow around the tree for celebratory, maybe there's some plastic bow or tie a ribbon and just put it around the ones that buy it and with 150. And that way it goes after about a year or 6 months.
Okay, I think we've,
And
from what I'm inferring from what everybody said, there's enough support to move forward, George. And rather than debate the details, why don't we let George do his ongoing planning? If anybody has any other ideas that they want George to consider, send him an email through Lisa or however you want to communicate with him.
I just have one thing, Ted. I mean, I like trees, trees are great and that's part of Wilmette. I just think that anything we decide to do, we just have to step back and make sure it all goes under the, the overall goals and strategy of the celebration of 150. And where is that placed? Like, why are we doing trees? Is it because it's an honoring, like a tradition that Wilmette is so full of beautiful foliage, or why are we doing that particular thing? Because each thing we decide to do is going to take resources and effort. So are we just doing it because we like trees, or is it somehow in a bucket of a strategy, or a goal that's tied to this celebration? So that's just my only point.
That's good.
Okay, let's go on to the next item. And this, George, you can report on this as well. The Alley Plaza. I like to call it a plaza rather than an alley. Go ahead and report on what's been happening there.
Well, We Met Way is what maybe we can call it, or whatever we want to call it. But yeah, I'll get away from alley. So I'm not, I think this, and there was a drawing in the packet and also a very preliminary cost estimate that the village put together. And several of us have met out at the site. I think the concept, personally, I think it's a great concept. I think there would be some logistic challenges that engineers like Al Swanson and others will figure out, I'm sure. But this one, in my mind, more so than a tree project, is a financial challenge. And we have an estimate of $120,000 or $150,000. I'm sure some of that is flexible. I think it's a fantastic project in my mind. But I personally think, since I'm going to be involved in fundraising, I think it's a lot easier to get people to send checks for trees than it is for a plaza or whatever we call it. Maybe we'll be able to sell brick pavers along, a sidewalk that we replace. But it's more of an infrastructure concept that I think might be just a little more difficult for people to buy into. I myself will buy into it right away, but I just think the general public may kind of scratch their heads about sending checks on it. So I think it's a great idea that will benefit the village immensely, and I think it'll help with parking. It'll add just a fantastic buzz to the area. But whether or not it's part of our, just like what Ann was saying, is the project kind of part of our whole 150 celebration? I think that's what the committee has to sign off on. And then the second piece is how we're going to pay for it.
This is Julie. I'm just like very concerned. It certainly is cool, but I'm wondering if anyone has consulted the businesses that utilize that alley or back up into that alley and how they feel about it. I really think that it would be step one before anything, with this project could move along. It is definitely a cool idea. I know it's a pet project of our new village president, but, the businesses have to be consulted first.
Alan?
I would comment on that, Julie, that I would not anticipate this plaza area going all the way through over to, what is that, over to 12th or 13th, whatever on the other side. It wouldn't go all the way through. It probably would go up to the end of the first building, and then there would be a attractive way to walk continuing on. But you couldn't close off the alley to provide deliveries and services to all those businesses. I don't think that would be anticipated. They would still have their access from the other side, from the west.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that that will
One-way alley too, anyway.
inconvenience them,
The one-way alley,
regardless.
I don't know if it's convenience them very much. It's already one way. They can't come out there this way
Yeah.
anyway.
Right. Okay.
Who else would like to comment on this?
John, this is Kathy. I guess it looks very cool, but I don't really understand who would use it. I mean, I see people sitting there at tables, but are they supposed to get food, drink from someplace else and go sit over there? I don't really understand the concept, I guess, from the drawing. I wonder if somebody could speak, George, or somebody else could speak to that a little bit more, because, this is obviously not something you use in the winter time either, sounds like. I guess I don't quite understand the use of that.
Well, one concept is to have people use the Metro lot for parking, which is a free parking that's available after either 5 or 6 o'clock. And there is a need, and I think the need for parking is growing. And this is making it more comfortable for people to walk from the Metro lot to the business area when they're trying to figure out where to park. I think that's one. I think it would, another side benefit is I think it would really enhance a lot of those businesses who, if you walk back there's just a lot of tired space back there. And all of a sudden, some of that space would probably get attention in the future, but that's not the real motivation. But I think it would probably happen.
As I understand it, the tables would be available for people who did carry out. Is that anybody else's understanding?
Well, it could be. I mean, I don't know whether it necessarily has to be a dining area, but it's the front, let's say the east part of it is a plaza. It can be a gathering space. It can be made attractive with some sort of special displays. You could have a mural up there. There's a lot of things you could do. It could be a sitting area. It could be something you brought tables out to. I don't know if that would be permanent. You'd have to definitely worry about access for fire access and whatever, depending on what they'd have to say about the use of the alley as a plaza instead. But the idea more than anything is that it provides suddenly a whole lot of parking available to those downtown businesses that right now have a real problem that they don't feel they have enough parking. And suddenly it's right there, an attractive way to walk from the parking to the businesses. That's kind of what you get out of it.
I think one of the things is that, if everybody's familiar with Fountain Square, downtown Evanston, which is, that whole area was designed by the same design firm that's doing our downtown new streetscape. They have created a really cool area that's kind of in that triangle area with lights, and they have live music, and it is an area where people bring food and things like that. I think it's the same kind of concept, except unfortunately this is off in an alley. It's a little more hidden. It's not really like in a big open centralized area, but I get the feel that that is kind of what they're trying to create, which is nice.
Okay, anyone else? Once again, I believe that what we're trying to decide here is whether this is an idea that you want us to pursue and see how it can be developed. If people are against this, there's no sense in wasting time on it. So if you're against it, speak up and let's see if you have any support in your opposition.
I think this should be, tabled for a future project not related to the Sesquicentennial.
Who said that?
Julie.
Julie Usum?
Yep.
Okay. Who else?
John, I think this would be a nice project. I agree with Alan and
I
George.
agree with that.
And it could be done on a much smaller scale.
Anyone else?
But if
Lisa?
you compare,
I agree with that.
if you're comparing it to Fountain Square, there's room to have a lot of music. The restaurants will come and do takeout orders while a concert's going on. And you need to have the restaurant community involved in it to see how they can benefit from it, as opposed to us just going renegade and thinking it's nice. That's all I've got to say. When I've gone down to Fountain Square, it's huge. You've got a band, and then the restaurants are coming, and there's plenty of place to sit, and you can order food, and they'll bring it to you.
And it's really centrally located, right? It's right there. It's great.
As opposed to hidden, so.
Right.
Well, this obviously would not be that. It's a less project. And as I understand what George and Alan are saying, it's one of its best features is that it provides kind of a gateway to the parking area and vice versa. And something pleasant that people will use. But, it has limited functionality because it's fairly narrow and not really part of the streetscape.
Yeah, it seems a lot of bucks to spend on something that's not going to be that useful.
Yeah, the cost seems quite high.
The cost has to
I'm
be,
interested in
Cost
how
could
much.
be greatly reduced.
yeah, the cost needs to be revisited, but if you look at that estimate, what I was originally thinking, it'd be a lot less than that, and the cost will go down. How far down, I can't tell you,
Yeah.
but it'd be less than that.
Yeah, if you can
All right,
spend dollars,
let's-
it should be
let's-
something for the
Could we
historical
try to bring
value.
this to a conclusion here? I'm going to ask Lisa to call the names again. And I think what we're talking about is, no, I'm not interested in doing this as part of the Sesquicentennial, or yes, I'm interested in seeing if Alan and George and whoever's working on this can come up with a plan that is better and that we could then take a look at. So this is a question of, do you want to at least proceed to investigate this further? Yes, no, I'm totally opposed to it.
John, this is Beth Drucker. Could I interrupt and say something, please?
Sure.
I kind of hate to see a vote like that taken with such a short amount of discussion. This is a concept that is incredibly popular. It's growing all over the world. Julie Wolf has done some great research on how many cities are doing this. And there's a lot of ways we could do it. So my one concern is a very short conversation without having been in the space or seen examples of other cities having done this might make us table or even eliminate an idea that is valid. Personally, I think it's a great and I think it's an unused, and I think it's an eyesore. We can take an eyesore of the village and make it a wonderful communal space. And so I know my vote's going to be to proceed and research it a little bit more, but I am a little concerned about people making a decision not based on a lot of time to consider it.
Except
This
what
is
we're
not.
talking about, shouldn't it be about the historical aspect of, this is a specific historical event that you're trying to remember, not something that should be good for the village.
Okay, notwithstanding the objection, I am going to ask Lisa to call for just a yes or a no. Let's just see how it comes out. This is not the end of the world here. Let's see how the yes, no, just get a sense of the feeling of the committee. Julie, would you please, or Lisa, would you please call the names?
Ms. Chow,
No.
Ms. Drucker,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Hussey Arnson,
Yes, but with a lot of reservations. I don't like that. I don't like
No,
the.
just yes or no.
Okay, yes.
Ms. McDonald,
No for the sesquicentennial.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Yuso,
And I'm,
No for the sesquicentennial.
Ms. Canifax,
Yes.
Mr. Canning, if he's with us,
Yes.
Mr. Squires.
I'm McCullough, just horned in, no for the sesquicentennial.
Did you call my name, Lisa?
Nope, Mr. Squires.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Jacoby.
Yes. So it's pretty obvious that people are interested in developing the idea further. So George and Alan, there you go. And Beth, you're among that group also, working on these projects. Let's move to the next item. You have a memo that outlines a program of working groups that have various functions assigned to them. Anybody opposes that, speak up. But otherwise, we're going to ask you to volunteer for any working group that you might want to serve on. All right, hearing no comments, you are free to volunteer. I have to say that the history working group already consists of 3 of our members who are Nancy and Vern and Kathy. So there's no room for another member of our committee to serve on that group. And I think that's the only one that's fully staffed. So if you're interested in serving on one of these working groups, please send an email to that effect to Lisa Roberts. Okay.
I'll volunteer for the history working group, Dick McCullough.
You're not on the committee.
I know I'm not on the committee. I just volunteering anyway.
Yeah, the leaders of the working groups are free to get non-committee members to help out if they wish.
Okay, good. Then I won't worry about them.
Next item on the agenda is really nothing too extensive. Discussion of possible periodic report to the community. We have been accumulating email addresses since this process started. Lisa Roberts, do you have any idea how many emails addresses we've got of people who are interested in this?
I've probably got a dozen or so people that are just generally interested. I was going to include in our first collection of emails all of the people that we originally contacted, with the various organizations. Of course, that's, several dozen.
All right, well, what I'm thinking is that we really haven't reported back to the community as to what's been going on. And I do think we need to in some way. So perhaps the working group that is working on publicity and so forth, they can include that as part of their ongoing effort. We should be reporting to the community as a whole. I don't know exactly how we do that, but this planning should not be just among a small group of people. Any comments?
John, it's Chris. Are you thinking about like putting something into Friday e-news or the communicator? It comes out quarterly.
Yes, I am.
No, that's a good idea.
That would be one option, and probably we ought to pursue other options as well.
Because I think those would be much more extensively sent out than the list that Lisa has right now.
Right. Lisa's list is not what I had in mind. Certainly those people would be included, but no, I'm talking about a report to the community. Anything else on this item? How soon do you think we should meet again? 3 weeks? We can have working groups up and running by then? Is that satisfactory to everybody? 3 weeks?
Is there a date that we should be getting in our working group preferences so that are the groups supposed to be created and meet before the next time we get together?
Yes, that would be my hope. And yes, you should get in your requests for working groups as promptly as possible. You know,
Okay. Okay.
I don't see any reason why that can't be done by next Monday.
So John, since I'm late coming in, if I'm interested in, say, arts working group or big events group, should I just send an email to Lisa?
Send the email to Lisa, and then we'll take it from there. The co-chairs and committee will take it from there.
Will do.
I just would like to make a pitch. If anyone wants to get involved in fundraising, we're looking for members.
Yeah, George has accepted the awesome responsibility of heading up the finance fundraising working group, which is going to be a big job. The working group that's handling big events, it's going to be a big job too. George, I interpret your remarks as you're recruiting people who want to work hard. And
yep. Or even work marginally.
Okay. Anything else to come before the committee? Is there any member of the audience, not a committee member, who would like to comment at this point?
I guess I'm the only one that fits that description. I'm a new resident to Wilmette, and I got very interested in the history of this area. And I wanted to make sure that somebody was paying attention to the very concept of history, since Antoine Wilmette and his wife Archange were theoretically the first couple in Chicago, the first family of Chicago. And it would seem that the Sesquicentennial, well, doesn't go back as far as what they do, would pay some attention to, for instance, where Wilmette Cabin was and where they got married, and what are some of the historical things that you might put some plaques out that had never been put out before, such as the location of the cabin and where they got married up on High Ridge Road and things like that. And the history of Wilmette be addressed specifically as part of the Sesquicentennial.
Okay, what you're saying falls within the province of our history working group, and
Yep.
Kathy and Vern and Nancy have heard what you have to say, and we'll take it from there.
And somebody should commission a portrait to be made, a good one, of both Antoine and Archange Wilmette, to see what they're the people who actually the first couple of Chicago. They were the first people who lived in Chicago, even before Kinsey. So somebody should remember them somehow too.
We have Archange's portrait, but
well, no, that's not. That was a rather badly done one in costume. But I think someone could come up with a volunteer. In fact, I even thought of one guy, a good artist, might do it for freebie. But anyway, that was all I wanted to say. This is
All
a
right.
very
Anything
interesting,
else to come?
very interesting history of this place.
Welcome.
Anything else to come before the committee? Hearing nothing, is there a motion to adjourn? Alan, will you make that motion, please? You have to do it unmuted. Kathy, will you make the motion to adjourn while Alan is trying to figure out his computer?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And Julie, would you second it?
I second.
All right. Lisa, please call the roll.
Ms. Chow,
Yes.
Ms. Drucker,
Yeah.
Ms. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Hussey Arnson,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
I give you an unmuted yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Newsome,
Yes.
Ms. Canifax. Mr. Canning,
Aye.
Mr. Squires,
Yes.
Mr. Jacoby.
Yes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.